Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, this week on the Dungeon Dive, we are taking a look at two games that I don't think get enough attention. And the nice thing about both of those games is that they are readily available and they aren't very expensive. The first game that we are taking a look at, and that is today, and that is the Chronicles of Avel. And this game, you can still just go to Amazon and buy it new. I think it is still in print, along with its two expansions. And so in today's video, we'll take a look at the base game. We'll talk a little bit about the kind of game it is, how it's played, some of the things I like. And then we'll also take a look at a couple of the expansions, or at both of the expansions, which I do think add a lot to the game. So if you just look at the game on the table, it kind of looks like a kid's game. It even has some of these big kind of like chunky character sheets here. We'll take a little bit of a closer look at these in a minute. I love this stuff. But it is definitely, I think it is a kid-friendly game. I think it is definitely in the family weight category. But I also think the game does offer up enough for a hobbyist. And I have played the game a handful of times since I purchased it last year, and I purchased it along with a small expansion, and then just recently I purchased the large expansion, and that is the New Adventures expansion. And this thing is pretty amazing. I think this is one of the better expansions I've seen in a game, or at least it is the kind of expansion that I like, in that it just offers up a whole bunch of little modular things that you can add to your base game. But let's take a look at the base game box and read a little bit about the Chronicles of Avel. Heroines and heroes, welcome to Avel, land full of incredible creatures and places, surrounded by tens of magical moons. Avel needs your help. Corridor, the black moon, has risen in the sky, and the ancient power that it emanates awakes the forces of evil. Only true heroes and heroines will be able to protect the most valuable treasure of Avel, the healing jewel, from destruction. Will you be able to save Avel? So Avel is a game in two parts. The first part, you are going to take your character, your heroes, and you will be going out into the land, adventuring from hex to hex, uncovering the hexes, looking to power up your character, looking to get new gear, looking to get new, looking to get more money so you can buy defenses for your castle and defenses to put out in the land. And you have a certain number of rounds to do that, depending on how many players there are. You have more rounds to accomplish your tasks with fewer players, and fewer rounds to accomplish your tasks with more players. And this game does play from true solo lone wolf from 1 all the way up to 4. I think the game is a little bit easier with 4 because you have the ability to cover more of the map territory, but it does play well at 2. I've never played it true solo, so I can't say if the lone wolf mode is really worked very well. But as soon as your timer reaches the end, you've explored some of your land. Well, the evil beast has fallen from the sky, and the beast lands at a predetermined spot on the map, depending on how you have set up your map. And there are quite a few different ways that it suggests that you can set up the map. There is also an app for map randomizers and just different things to keep track of. It is completely not needed to play the game, but if you want a map randomizer, you can use the app, and that is available on Android and iOS. But as soon as the timer ticks away, the beast lands where the map has told you to place the crater marker, and then at that moment, the big beast comes out onto the board, and it, along with all of the other monsters that are on the board, start marching towards your castle. And then it kind of turns into a little bit of a castle defense or a tower defense style game, where you have to defeat all of the monsters, including the giant beast, before any of them reach the castle. And you can do a few things to fortify your castle. You can set up some castle walls by finding one of the dwarven artisans that lives out in the world. You can buy these walls to set up, and those will help prevent the monsters from moving into your castle. You can set up these traps in different locations, and these traps will be triggered whenever the beast moves onto a space or onto a tile that has one of those traps. So you can do some pretty big damage against the beast without having to face off against it yourself. You can also buy these moon portal tokens, or these moon tokens, these seals. And on each of the tiles, there are these white spaces here, and that's where monsters will spawn. And if you're able to find the location where you can buy these, you can place those over those portals so the monsters no longer spawn, and thus you have fewer threats to deal with. So this game is cooperative and solo. It has some tower defense mechanisms. It has some threat management mechanisms and some exploration. So this is the game as set up, one of the initial setups here. And the first thing you're going to do is you need to spawn some monsters in these spaces here. And there are small monsters and there are large monsters. And the large monsters are usually more powerful and the small monsters are usually less powerful. I do have some of the expansion stuff mixed into my monsters, so you might see some of those. But we have monsters here like these skeletons, goblins, these kind of reptile creatures, or these golem creatures, some plant creatures and swamp creatures. I think the art is really good. I love the skeletons in this game. They look so cool. And then the larger enemies here, we have these large kind of rock giants. And the enemies are in factions. So we have this vampire here, and he's the Lord of the Undead. So all of the undead creatures are kind of in its faction. And then we have these earth factions. And then these demons here, these are from one of the first expansions, one of the small expansions. And so there's two of those. But then we have this kind of undead evil lord there. So really cool. I love the monsters in this. And I think the art is pretty good. But at the beginning of the game, you will take 3 starting creatures. So we have this kind of frog creature here in the swamp. And then we have some kind of man-eating plant here in this veil of, or this like a grove of mushrooms. And then we have this kind of rock golem hanging out there as well. And so the creature tokens will give you some information. They will tell you what dice they use to attack you. So this particular rock golem creature here uses a black die and a purple die. It has 3 hit points. When you defeat the creature, you get to draw an item from the item bag and you get 2 coins. And the coins can be spent on a number of things. They can be spent in the market to get more items. And they can also be spent in order to fortify your castle and to upgrade your gear. Let's talk about gear and the characters here for a minute, because this is a really neat aspect to the game. I love this. It's very tangible. A lot of the aspects of this game are very tangible. It's all kind of chunky cardboard and wooden tokens, and the dice feel really good. So everything in this game just feels really good. The production is kind of off the charts good. But these character sheets are awesome. And this is here you can kind of see where it kind of goes into that kids game mode, because you do have a paper character sheet here with either a male or a female avatar there. And then, so, if you can color them in and maybe add some details that you would like. You can add their name here. The game does come with a random name generator. So if you can't think of a name, and you can draw a little insignia there, for a little armor insignia there if you want to. And then you'll keep track of your hit points here by putting these big chunky heart pieces in the life track here. And then you have a backpack, and you have kind of a paper doll little area to place your gear. And your gear is also represented by these chunky cardboard tokens. So here I have drawn a sword, and the sword goes into your hand just like that. And each of the pieces of gear can be upgraded. And so on the basic side here, this always tells you that as a hero, you will always attack with 2 green dice. That's kind of your base dice pool there. And then this particular sword against green enemies. So I don't have any green enemies on the map here. Those are the undead enemies. So kind of like this werewolf here, or maybe the skeletons. So against green enemies, I automatically do 1 point of damage. When I upgrade my sword, I can flip that over, and that will allow me to add a yellow die to my dice pool. So then my dice pool for attacking would be 2 green die and a yellow die. The yellow die have these magic symbols there, and those can be used for either an attack symbol or a defense symbol. As you start getting more gear, you might start adding a yellow and an orange die, or maybe a blue die. Blue are more defensive die, then orange are more attack die, and the yellows will have that magic symbol that you can use as a wild. And when you get new gear, you actually get to draw it from this bag here. And there's a whole bunch of gear here. So we have different types of shields. And the shields will give you certain blocks against certain enemies. And then as you upgrade them, they will also add dice to your dice pool. And then we have helmets here. The helmets will usually allow you to re-roll enemies' attack dice. And then they will also add defense dice there. We have different types of potions, and the potions fit in your backpack. So anytime you gain an item and you don't want to put it on your actual character, it does have to fit in your backpack, and you can't stack items. So there's a little bit of spatial recognition, and I can see this actually being good for young kids, learning how to organize things in a little space there. But even your money has to fit in your backpack. So that's super cool. I just love that tangible quality of this game. The potions are one use, but they can usually be spent to add dice to your dice pool for attacks and that kind of thing. And there are also potions that will allow you to upgrade your gear to its more powerful side. And then the expansion, and this is where I feel one of the main expansion, or the small expansion, is called the Adventures Toolkit. This really should be part of the base game, and it's a little disappointing that it's not. However, it's super cheap. It's like $6 on Amazon. And this will come with your boots. So this expansion is kind of needed to complete your armor set. So then you can get these boots, and the boots go there, and they are flipped over again when you get fully upgraded. And once you start getting upgraded and you start adding more dice to your dice pool, you really do start to feel more powerful, and it's a really cool kind of power trip, a really cool kind of power fantasy. As you get more powerful, it really feels significant. But when you draw these item tokens from the bag, they're actually drawn blind. And so each one of them is a very specific kind of shape. And so you have 5 seconds to draw something out of the bag by feeling for it. And so if you're looking for a shield, you kind of want to try to feel for this pointed edge there. If you're looking for a weapon, you want something that has long and it has these kind of broader ends to it. If you're looking for a helmet, you want to look for this kind of, it's almost like a star shape, almost like a hexagon shape there. And then, of course, the boots here will be kind of more rounded. And then the potions are kind of long and rounded. And so I think that's kind of cool. It's a neat system. It's a neat thing to add to a game like this. It does add a lot of that tangible factor that I think is really important in kind of a good kids game. But the mechanisms that it is adding as far as upgrading your character and upgrading dice to your dice pool make it a lot of fun for a hobbyist as well. So each of the characters will be associated with a different color meeple. Here we have the dark blue meeple, and then my female character here, Zania. She has a kind of a gray character there. Now, the items also will have certain uses, and in a battle, you have 3 tokens that you can use to use a weapon one time. Sometimes the weapons will add a permanent effect, like if they add dice, then the dice are a permanent effect, and you don't have to use up the weapon while you are attacking, so you can use that in forever. But at the beginning of the game, you'll have it set up like this. You will have your characters down here in the castle, and you have the 3 starting token, or the 3 starting tiles. And then you start moving out and exploring and fighting and looking for things to help you, because you know you need to prepare for the arrival of the beast, and the beast is coming. There's nothing you can do to prevent the beast. You can't win the game before the beast arrives. It's not like Arkham Horror where you can defeat the big bad before it wakes up from its slumber. No, you know the beast is going to come. You know you need to plan to deal with it. And how you do that, well, that's kind of up to you. And the turn economy in this game is really tight, especially with 2 heroes. I think 3 heroes might be a good way to play the game solo, and I've only ever played it with 2, so I need to try it with 3. It can be pretty difficult at 2. You really need to have some good, efficient turns. But let's do a couple sample turns here. This is not a teach video, so there might be some mistakes, but I'll give you a general idea of how the game is played. So the first turn, the first player will get this marker here, so we'll give that to Ziana, and she is this gray meeple here. So let's do an example of combat. So as one turn, so you have a few things you can spend your turns on. You get 2 actions per turn, and you can do the same thing twice. We have movement. You can move to an explored hex, or you can move to an unexplored hex and explore it. You can do battle, and battle is in 3 rounds. You can do a tile action, so if your tiles have certain actions, or you can rest to regain some of your health. So for Ziana's turn, she will move for one of her actions, and then she will engage this frog creature in combat. So let's see how that works here. So the frog creature uses 2 black D6, and those are pretty deadly. On the enemy's dice, they have hit points, so that's damage, and then they block your damage. One of my complaints about the game is they use 2 different icons for blocking, and that's just really weird. If defense means one thing, then they should always use that icon for defense. When a monster is blocking, that is their defense. It should be the shield on each should be the same. It's kind of weird. But we have 2 black die and a purple die. The black die are more powerful. The purple die are weaker. And then our character here, she starts with 2 purple die, and she has this morning star here, or this spiked flail, and she can re-roll the monster's purple dice if I want to. So let's go ahead and roll our dice pool here, and we need to do 1 point of damage. Okay, so we did 1 point of damage. The monster did 1 point of damage to us. However, the monster blocked our attack. So we do no damage, and the monster does 1 point of damage to us. I will remove 1 health from her board. So that was the first round of combat. Combat is in 3 rounds. In between each round, you can escape if you want to. I am going to press forward. Okay, there we go. So I do 2 points of damage to the monster. The monster does 2 points of damage to me. I am going to use my spiked flail in order to re-roll this purple die. And nope. Okay, so the monster still hits. So I'm going to now lose 2 more hit points. So I've lost 3 hit points in that battle there. But I did kill the monster because it only needed 1 hit point to kill. And for my reward, I get 2 coins. So now I have 3 coins in my backpack. And you can see that here, 3 coins in my backpack. And so that's pretty good because I can try to find the blacksmith out here, and I can pay 3 coins in order to upgrade one of my weapons. So that's a really, really important thing to do. Okay, so now it's Harlan Peters' turn. So she's taken her turns, her 2 actions. I think Harlan is going to move, and then he's going to move and explore. And I am going to explore here. So here we have, okay, so I can spend 3 tokens here in order to buy one of those blockers that I can block one of the monster's spawn points. Okay, so we can put all 3 of these here if we want, and to remind us, and he is moving here. Now there are all kinds of different tiles here. So here's where we can, this is like a dwarven artificer or a dwarven artisan, and we can pay 3 coins here in order to help build the wall. And that's probably not a very good slogan, build the wall, but hey, that's what we're doing. We're building the wall around the castle here to keep the monsters out. Here is a spawn point, and this is also a portal. So this swamp here has a portal, and this swamp here has a portal. That means that those 2 are adjacent. This has happened in 3 games in a row. You really want to hope that the way you've dealt out your tiles, that the portals are kind of far from each other so you can get around the map quicker. When this happens, that's kind of disappointing. It kind of negates the effect of that portal. But here we have, this is just a big tower, and this is where a big chunky monster comes. And the big monsters will often have a way that they can negate one of your abilities. So if you're fighting against this giant kind of rock golem here, you cannot use any powers that are generated from a shield. All right, so these are all the base game tiles here. So here we have our elves in this forest here. and we can pay 3, 5, or 7 in order to build a trap. And the 3 gold trap is the least powerful, the 5 is medium, and the 7 is the most powerful. And so we could go there, we could build a trap, and then we could put those traps in the path that the beast is going to take in order for the beast to take damage from those. Here we have another swamp here. So the swamp would just get another large beast there. And this is one of the beasts from the small expansion. And I can't remember what they're called, these demonic brothers or demonic sisters or something. And each one of them has the ability to, when you defeat them, you get to rescue one of these animal familiars. And then these animal familiars will join you on your quest in order to defeat the beast. And so you can use their powers. Each one of them has a strong power. You can use that, and then you flip it over, and then you can use a weaker power until they are discarded. Maybe they die heroically in battle. Let's see what the other tiles are here. So this is a wishing pond. Here you can spend a gold in order to roll 2 green dice, and you can also have 1 reroll. And then if you roll any of these combinations, you get either some gold, an item, or you get to upgrade one of your weapons. But that's a chance, and I've never really had that pay off. Here we have a tile that you have a spawn point on there. If you clear that monster, you get 2 additional gold if you take the tile action there. And then the final here is the moon beast. The beast is going to be landing at the blacksmith, which is too bad. That's very far away. This is a very handy tile because you can spend 3 gold in order to upgrade one of your pieces of gear. So let's say this is the end of the game. The beast lands. We can take a look at the back of the comment marker to see what the beast lands with, how many additional monsters. And there are 3 difficulty levels: easy, medium, and hard. And each one of those will add more and more powerful monsters to the beast that you have to defeat during that last half of the game. And so that is basically everything you get in the base game and how that works. Now let's talk a little bit about the expansions. Okay, the first expansion, the small expansion, the Adventurers Toolkit. Again, I really think this should have been included in the base game. It's only $5 or $6, and it's really small. It's this pamphlet along with, I think, two punch boards is the entire expansion. You will get some additional elixirs, some additional potions to add to your potion bag. Those will allow you to explore, take an additional action, and upgrade your gear. You get the completion of your armor set, so you get your boots. And your boots will usually allow you to re-roll a certain die in combat, and then they will also give you additional movement. And then you get 3 new monsters. You get those 3 new monsters. And what were those called? The 3 daughters. And so those are like the demon daughters that will allow you to, when you kill them, you can take over that animal familiar. You also get 3 new board tiles, and these are always added to the board. So when you play with this expansion, the boards are a little bit bigger. The base game also comes with a number of tiles that you only use for certain player counts. So if you're playing with 3 or more players, you will add this token or this tile here. And if you're playing with 4 or more, you will add this tile there. But if you're playing with the expansion, you will always add these in. This tile here just adds a big creature, but you can get 3 gold. This is a thrift store, kind of a traveling merchant. And when this comes out, you will draw 3 things at random and place those here. And then when you go to this tile, you can exchange one of your items for one of the items in this traveling merchant's cart. That can be very handy because you know exactly what you're going to get. And then here, this is a little city that will build ballistas for you. And these are really cool. So we have 3 different ballistas. We have a green ballista, an orange ballista, and a blue ballista. And these are like the traps that you can get in the base game. But these, when you build them for 3, 4, or 5 gold, you will set those out on the board in hopefully strategic positions. And then those you can use at the beginning of the hero's turn. You can use to shoot those at a creature that is in the tile or in an adjacent tile. And each one of those will correspond to its similar color die. So the orange ballista, you will roll the orange die. the green, you will roll the green die, and the blue, you will roll the blue die. And if you roll a sword, then you'll do a point of damage to the creature that you're aiming at. So that's really cool. I like that a lot. And then we've already taken a look at the animal familiars you get for killing one of the 3 demon daughters. And we have an eagle here, and the eagle will allow you to explore a tile and eventually will allow you to have 1 additional point of movement. The bear will defend for 2 and then defend for 1. The fox will attack for 2 and then attack for 1. And so those are the different animal familiars you can get there. And then let's see. So that's everything that is in this small expansion. Like I said, it really should be in the base game. There's really no reason for it not to be, especially since it's only $5. And it does complete your armor sets. So it is a little weird that in the base game, if you only have the base game, you can never get any boots. So that's a little bit of a disappointment there. But this big expansion, let's take a look at the back of the box here. I love this cover for this big expansion. It's super cool. It does remind me of kind of a modern video game look, and I think that's cool. I would love to play a modern video game in this setting. I think it would be really fun, a big open world adventure game in the land of Avel. But let's take a look here. This is a great expansion. So welcome, heroes of Avel. Even though the beast of Black Moon has been defeated, evil did not lay down its arms. Seizing on the moment of a weakened master, the gods of 3 dark moons decided to carry out their own deceitful attack on Avel. There is no time for resting. The kingdom and its residents need help. We have a jump the castle, precious transport, and moon machines. These are 3 scenarios that you can play either standalone or you can play them in order for a little campaign. We also have these little modular expansions that can be added. We have the Moon Monster, and that's a new final creature that you fight. Instead of fighting the Comet Beast here, then you fight the Moon Monster at the end of the game. We have Oberon and Titania, and these are 2 kind of elf gods that roam the land, and they offer up more powerful things for the heroes to buy and use. And then we also have these cruel hunters, and these are kind of more powerful small creatures or small monsters. And when you defeat them, you get to use one of the powers from Titania. So that's kind of all of the little modular expansions that you get in here. Let's take a look at the Moon Beast. So the Moon Beast, this is a big bad that you can fight at the end instead of the regular beast. And this guy's pretty powerful because not only is he as powerful as the beast and using his different attacks and has a lot of hit points. And the number of hit points that the end boss has depends on the number of players playing, of course. But you also will be randomizing its powers. The Moon Beast has different powers every turn. And there are 2 parts to its powers. And you have these tokens here that form into this moon. And so as the moon is changing, the beast's powers are changing as well. And every turn you will draw a new piece. And then that will tell you what that beast is doing on that turn. So if you were fighting against the Moon Beast while it was in this phase here, you couldn't use any swords or shields. Man, that's terrible. It is pretty weak in its attack. It's attacking with 1 black die and 2 purple die. And then immediately it does a flame attack in this direction on the hex that it is standing on. So that would be that turn there. And you keep track of those like that on this little board here that does fit nicely at the bottom here. It's kind of off camera, but it fits along this time tracker. And then on the next turn, let's see what the beast would do. Okay, so you can't use any potions, but it's pretty powerful here. It attacked with all of the enemy die, 2 black die and 3 purple die. And then here it's going to do kind of a thrashing attack in its hex. So it adds some randomness to the end, and it is a more powerful creature to fight. And because you don't actually know what it's going to do from turn to turn, it can be a little more difficult. One of the other expansions that this adds, one of the other modules, is we have Oberon and Titania. And Oberon here comes with, so he is kind of this elf lord, and I think he starts in this mushroom grove here. and he comes with a whole bunch of magical items. And at the beginning of the game, you will turn these face down to have their cost showing. And then you will place one of these in his little holder here. And he kind of walks around the board in a random way, depending on a die roll. And when you land on him, you can trade in your gear. You can trade in tokens that correspond to enemies you've defeated. So a brown enemy, a blue enemy. And then you can upgrade your shield with 2 coins in order to get this really powerful shield. And this shield will add 1 blue die and 2 guaranteed defenses. I find that the costs of his items is really expensive. And when I have played with him before, I've never had such an efficient game that I have enough materials and enough extra things to use any of his gear. I think the costs are a little bit too much. For instance, in this, you need to defeat a blue monster, a brown monster, and 3 gold. And then you can get this magical book, and the magical book adds a white die. There are no white D6. That's just a random die that you can choose to add to your dice pool. This here, you trade in a potion, a green monster trophy, and 1 coin. And you get this that allows you, what is that? I've actually never seen that before. So the rule book does come with a nice description of everything. Let's take a look at that here. That is the Phoenix's Ruby. Place this item in your backpack. You may use it once during your turn, before or after an action. This is not considered an action. Choose a monster that is 1 or 2 tiles from you. They don't have to be in a straight line, and roll 2 green die. The monster receives 1 damage. Oh, that's kind of cool. So it's just kind of a way to attack enemies that are in different tiles in you. And you get to use it once per turn. Here we have so you can trade in a helmet, 3 gold, and a brown token, a brown trophy, and you can get this particular helmet there. So the magical items are pretty powerful, but they do come with a steep cost. But he is one of the little modules there. And then we also have, I think, like his wife here, and I think her name is Titania. Is that right? Titania. Yep. So Oberon and Titania. And she's very similar. She starts over here in this swamp. But she has all of these little fairy familiars. And she will start with 1 randomly there in her purchase there. And as you land on her, I think it's 2 gold you can draw, and you can get one of these little familiars. And that will allow you to do one thing. These are kind of like potions. You can use these for one-time benefits. Here you can re-roll any 3 dice. Here you can gain 2 hit points. Here you can gain 2 movements. Here you can gain a guaranteed success on damage and blocking. This little bird will deliver you 4 gold coins. Here you can get an item, and so on. So these are really cool to use. I like the potions. I think they add a lot to the game, and these little familiars do as well. Now, these little familiars are also used if you're using the Dangerous Hunters module, or the Doomed Hunters, the Cruel Hunters. And so these are more powerful, smaller monsters that you will mix in to your stack of small monsters. And when you defeat them, you get to draw one of these at random, because they have gone out and they have captured these little familiars. They have captured these little creatures. And so when you defeat one of these, then you get to rescue that creature and then use its power. And then for the scenarios, so there are 3 scenarios, and then again, you can play those back to back to back as a kind of little campaign. You don't have to, but those come with some really neat things. So the first scenario is called, I think it's jumping the castle walls, or jumping the walls. And these kind of evil frog things have jumped the castle walls, and they have stolen these moonstones. And each one of these frogs will get a moonstone, and you will put those moonstone in the frogs' backs here like that. And then that is so cool. I love the tangible nature. I love this quality of this game. But you will take those, and then those will be going out into the land, and they are trying to get back to this kind of half hex here. And that this is set up according to a map that you have different ways to set this up. But they are trying to get those pieces back to their evil master in this swamp. So when you're playing this version, this scenario, you're not fighting the moon beast or you're not fighting the beast. You are just trying to stop those frog monsters from stealing your moon tokens. So that's the first scenario. The second scenario starts right after that, where you have collected those moonstones and you've taken them back to your castle. And then you take this little wagon here and you put the moon stones in this wagon. And then you'll take this other little half hex and set it up according to the map. And this is like this wizard's tower. And you need to deliver those moonstones in this wagon. So this is kind of like an escort mission. You need to escort this wagon with these moonstones in order to win. You need to get it to that wizard's tower so the wizard can unlock the secrets of these moonstones. And then in the final scenario, you have these moon machines. And these get added to the board in certain ways. And each one of these you will put one of these moonstones in its locking mechanism there. And then these get moved at certain points during the game. And you want to manipulate these so they don't fall into this final spot here where the moonstone falls out of the machine onto the ground and breaks. And that's how you lose this scenario there. And there also are these bug creatures here that are used in one of the scenarios. And so these things are used as well, kind of like these frog guys where they have just kind of like ornate, big, chunky cardboard paper craft creatures that you can fight. And I think that is everything that you get with the game and with all of its expansions. I mean, just look at all this stuff. It's so colorful. It's so bright. It's so inviting. The game has a real wow factor. I think it looks great on the table. It has a great toy factor. I love the vibrant colors. I love the little kind of paper doll way that you put your weapons here and your armor and how you can upgrade those and how you have to manipulate things in your backpack to make sure things fit. That is super, super cool. And I like the modular nature of the expansion, how you can mix and match and add things. You can add one thing to make the game a little easier, maybe add another thing to make the game a little harder. The game is really quite easy to learn. I think the rules are pretty well written in a straightforward manner. And there also is some storytelling in the rule book. If you kind of want to get more into the story, each of the main game and the expansion does come with a little storybook. And this storybook just gives you some background. And then it also has a bestiary here where you can read about the different monsters that you are fighting. And then if you play through the small campaign, there is a short little chapter to read before each of the scenarios that it does tell a story. One thing I think is missing is just some flavor text on the components themselves. And I think a little bit of flavor text would have gone a long way in this game to kind of offset the nature of it being a very mechanical game. When you are playing, it's a really fast-paced game. There's really nothing that stops your action. You're never having to do something that's going to stop the action in its tracks. And so you can get through a game of this solo in about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. So that's cool, but I would have liked to have seen just a little bit of flavor text on each of the hexes, maybe to give us a little bit of a background of what this area is, just to add a little bit of flavor to the kind of focus that this game does have on the mechanisms. This is not an adventure game. You're not going to feel like you are out in this land adventuring. You do feel like you are kind of a little bit under pressure because of the timer and because of the limited number of actions you have to prepare for your final battle. So it's not an easy breezy adventure game. It's a pretty tight. It's a suspenseful game. You can feel that pressure while you are playing because you know that evil big beast or the moon beast is going to be landing soon, and then you're going to have to deal with them whether you are ready or not. So yeah, so that was a look at the Chronicles of Avel along with its 2 expansions. Again, this is all readily available, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about this game. Maybe the kid-like nature of its look, maybe that pushes away some older hobbyists. But I do enjoy this game, and I like looking at it, and I like playing it. I think it's pretty fun. And yeah, everything is readily available. So if this looks good, you can go out and buy this game today. So all right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.